always appreciated growing up and being the youngest and the last. Most of the time, it never worked to my advantage except in one case.
What?
And that was, that's from my point of view.
Oh, okay.
From my point of view. I'm sure that the other ones of you will all differ in that. But in one place where it did work to my advantage was in spanking. Because we all got spanked in order of how old we were, and since I was the youngest, if I could get everyone else in trouble for the same thing, then they always got it worse than I did. And so, not to say that that was a common practice on my part, but it did work sometimes. So I have a couple of props with me as well. The first one here is that I have a special quilt that my mother made for me. Actually, they're really two quilts. This is the one I remember growing up, true to the waste not, want not motto. Is there any way to stabilize it? Yeah. To the waste not, want not motto, this used to be a skirt of Debbie's. Is she back there somewhere? She really was very happy to be reminded of this skirt. She really, really appreciates it, and she just wants it shown for everyone because this is the quilt.
Wow. And Mom made one of those for each of us.
Yeah, I think, yes, I do remember that Mom always encouraged needlepoint and needlework for all of us, and we made quilt patches for Grandpa and stuff when they made blankets, but she also made me a special quilt, which I didn't bring with me, that she made later on, and I actually picked out the pattern and picked out the fabrics, and it took a long, long time. I can't remember how many years it took for Mom to actually finish the quilt, but what I do remember is that she did actually finish it, and I have it, and it's the most beautiful quilt in the world, and all the more special because I know how much time and effort and all the pieces of Mom's soul that went into putting that quilt together. And so when I think about that quilt, it reminds me of what Mom and Dad have inspired in me. The quilt pattern, by the way, that I picked out was called Morning Star, which I know has some significance for Dad and Mom, and so that was, that just happened to be that way. The quilt starts out as beautiful pieces, and even though each of those little pieces is a work of art on its own, once you put it together, it becomes even more beautiful and takes on a life of its own. And Mom and Dad created, personally, 5 of the lives here today, and and introduced us all into a beautiful life that we had. So their marriage, just like the quilt, reminds me that for any worthwhile endeavor, you need, okay, here are my bullet points, art, hard work, and love. And I know that all of these 3 have been brought up already, and that's the curse of being the youngest of 5, is that everybody has already punched on some of these, but I wrote mine before that, so anyway, we'll just work in all that other stuff. So we know that you've heard that we've been constantly reminded about art in our lives, painting and drawing, because Great-Grandma Meetsy and Grandma Dodson both went to art school, so we knew that that we always had that going. So we all had the visions that we all too could be great. Some of us became more great than others, but it was always encouraged. Mom would always encourage us whenever we went out on outings or vacations to take a sketchbook along, and she would show us just how easy it was to draw an evergreen tree or a flower or a hill or some mountains, and of course the little M's. The little M's for the birds, right?
Do you remember drawing the ruts and the wagon ruts?
I don't remember the wagon ruts, but every one of us, I'm sure, has something that Mom helped us draw, and she made it look easy. Hers always looked better than mine. We were always playing music and singing, and that was part of our family. I used to sing with Dad a lot when we would drive in the car. Specifically, we used to sing In the Garden a lot, and that was the song that we did. And I think that was later when I had a couple of years probably to Mom and Dad to myself when everyone else had passed on. I mean, not passed on. Sorry, flown the coop. That's it. Sorry, flown the coop. There we go. And so we used to drive along. We used to drive around and sing when we would do that. And of course, as has already been mentioned, I may not have appreciated that half hour of practice time on the piano every day. Before you could do anything fun or anything else, you must practice that half hour a day. I might not have appreciated it at the time, but I really do appreciate that now. Okay, so hard work. Hard work was also evident in our family. I remember hearing the sound of the sewing machine going late into the night as I was trying to sleep upstairs, and I knew that Mom was making somebody some clothes, and she made me several dresses. I know she made other people lots of outfits, but Mom was always working on some kind of project. If it was not sewing, it was... Yeah, and she did like Halloween costumes, Daniel Boone costume.
That's right.
I remember that was a big deal.
That was a big
I
deal.
still have the sewing machine
We went
used.
to Smoky Point to get
The leather?
deer skin, didn't we?
Daniel's remembering that they went to Smoky Point to get the deer skin for that Daniel Boone costume. And I remember Mom breaking lots of needles on that. That's the part I remember.
And the choice words that followed.
Wait a minute.
Oh, those stinking fish! Oh, those stinking fish! Oh, that's Dad. Sorry. I remember I was also Dad's receptionist for some time in the office. I know that Debbie did this as well, but I did it at a different time. And I remember all the care that Dad took with his patients, and I would set them up, and they always had very kind things to say. And Dad always worked very hard and gave his patients as much care as he could. We, as a family, we used to go out on weekends to Happy Acres and work in the work outside in the gardens and
bother the neighbors.
And bother the neighbors. Yes, I remember through the trees to go visit our cousins. I think I spent more time playing with Heather than I did doing any real work, but but I know that Mom and Dad were really working hard. And so a quilt takes a long time to work the art and the hard work together with the love to produce that finished product and that finished masterpiece. I know that Mom and Dad gave us, and me specifically, a lot of love, and I know that they've done that for all of the people that are here today. Every time that they came to all the plays and the musicals, sometimes even more than once, which we always knew when Mom was there, and Aunt Annie, incidentally, because people would come from being on stage and go, your mom's here, your aunt's here, because, you know, we can hear them in the audience. And I always thought that was so amazing that someone could pick out my mother or my aunt just by, you know, them being in the audience. It was amazing. It was the laugh, Daniel, thank you. They came to myriads of concerts, and Dad would come home for lunch, and he never would leave until we had our three-cornered hug. This was when I was very young. I remember having a three-cornered hug. I would have to stand on that orange thingy-mabob right behind me, and we would have a three-cornered hug before he would go back to work. And then, of course, Mom finally finished that quilt. And